All right, we're off and running on Niners Nightly. Hope everybody's having a great day. Larry Kruger with you on the KMBR YouTube channel. Couple minutes behind tonight, but hope everybody's having a great one. And we got a terrific hour for you. The great Brad Graham is going to stop by bottom of the hour. So happy August 27th. We spent today down in Santa Clara, kind of a very eventful day in 49er land. There was a lot of news. We talked to Lynch and Shanahan, then the Niners practiced. And there's been lots and lots of news today and some acquisitions. So we got a lot to get to. And what we'll do, first of all, just is kind of go through, like we always do, what has happened today in Ninerland. There's always a bunch of things going on. And today was no shortage of things going on. And we'll get to all of them. A couple things I want to show you that are kind of interesting right out of the chute. Christian took care of his teammates today. Christian McCaffrey took care of his teammates. This is courtesy of RSF 49ers. There we go. Christian McCaffrey he's got a new While on Earth gear, and he gave every one of his teammates While on Earth gear. So there you go. Good for Christian. I mean, how would you like to be a Niner teammate? You just come to your locker and you've got shoes in your size. He gets the shoe sizes of everybody. And hey, here you go, guys. I got a new deal. There you go. So that was the first a bit of news of the day. And that's actually, I'm just joking around. That's really not the big news of the day. The Niners were back on the practice field. And there are several things we want to show you from today's practice. And it was a late practice. They practiced late in the day. Here is a little, who's that? That's Brandon Ayuk. So you got a little bit of Ayuk ready. I would say it's probably week 10 before he's back. But this guy had three major things go wrong with his knee, and he's cutting on it right now and trying to test it a little bit. So there you go. A little footage that probably shouldn't be shown. They usually don't like you to take footage of any of the injured players. I guess maybe they made the exception for somebody today. So there you go. That was the first footage of the day. But that wasn't it. There's more. Because today also saw a couple guys return to practice, and one of them was Upton Stout. And this is a guy that the 49ers are expecting to see, play a big role for them, right? I mean, if you're going to be their starting nickel corner, you're going to be, that's a major role on the football team for sure. And so, and he's missed the last couple of weeks, and there was whispers about, it's a calf, but is it more than that? Is it Achilles? I saw him running the other day on the field, and I thought, wow, he looks really good. He returned to practice today. We will share the screen on this one. This is also courtesy of RSF 49ers. The great Raj. Jordan James and Upton Stout are back. There's James wearing 29. There you go. A little bit of Jordan James. Are we going to get a little bit of Stout as well? I think we're going to get a little bit of Stout. More of Jordan James. Little Lenny Kravitz. There we go. A little up and Stout. He's back at practice. Good to see. He was sprinting the other day up and down the sidelines. So, it was a good sign then. He was getting close. And he's back at practice. So that's big. Upton Stout's back at practice, and Jordan James is back at practice, and those were a couple of the headlines today. Okay, there was a lot actually that happened today, so let's just get right into it. First of all, let's get into some of the transactions. Niners signed Sincere McCormick to their practice squad. Now, what we don't know yet, and I haven't gotten the answer to this question, is did Jeff Wilson, because Jeff Wilson signed with the Dolphins practice squad, did he prefer to sign with the Dolphins practice squad, or because he was a free agent, And then the Niners pivoted to Sincere McCormick, or did the Niners say, you know what, we didn't want Jeff Wilson, we preferred Sincere McCormick? I guess my question is this: is Sincere McCormick their first choice or their second choice because they didn't get Jeff Wilson? I don't know if we're going to get the answer to that. But that was the first one today. So and I like Sincere McCormick. He played for Texas, University of Texas at San Antonio with Spencer Burford. He played with the Raiders last year. He actually had a couple of really good games late in the year. Might have even been a decent fantasy back at one point late in the year. So Sincere McCormick is a good player for sure. He's an NFL back, and he runs low to the ground. He knows how to fight for every, he'll get what you block it for. If you block it for 4, he'll get you 4. He's not going to get you a lot more, but he's not going to get you a lot less. Wilson, to me, looked, he fell down 5 times in practice in 1 week, 5 times. So that usually is the sign of you're done. You're done. But then he had a good game and he ran strong in the game. And I thought, okay, wait a second. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's got a little bit more juice. Maybe he's just rusty. So I don't have the answer to that, but Sincere McCormick on the practice squad, Jeff Wilson on Miami's practice squad. Now, the Niners also announced 13 members of their practice squad. And the way it works is you can be elevated off the practice squad to the active roster 3 times over the course of the year. And they have 16 practice squad spots plus the international player. And so today they announced 13 practice squad spots. Eli Apple, the corner, he's back, the veteran corner. Junior Bergen, for the moment, has a job. I wouldn't have even put him on the practice squad. I don't get that. That seems really, I can't imagine he's going to be around long. William Bradley King, defensive end. I thought he looked good in the preseason. He's on the practice squad. Derek Cantine, I thought he looked good. Number 40. Little safety, little corner. He can do a little bit of both, right? I thought he looked good. Robbie Chosen, who showed that he could still very much run like the Robbie Chosen of yesteryear. He's been around a while, but 4.3 speed at receiver, veteran. They can be plugged in at any point. The practice squad used to be all rookies, and then they said, hey, let's make it more like a taxi squad so these guys can have veterans so they can play better football by having guys practicing throughout the year. And I think it's been a really good thing for the NFL. It really has. I mean, yes, they don't have as many stories of he was working at Krueger's on Tuesday and Sunday he was running the football in the NFL. And those stories always sound good, but they're kind of embarrassing, really. For a multi-billion-dollar operation, you're being fronted by guys who are working at Krueger's on Wednesday. That's not good. That just sends the wrong message on several levels. Also on the practice squad, Trevis Gibson, and that's a good one because Gibson had a great preseason. I really didn't like the fact that they cut him, but they got him back. Jalen Graham is back. Drake Nugent is back. Curtis Robinson is back. The one that I yelled and screamed the other day, oh, my God, they just lost Sebastian Valdez. The Niners knew more than me because he went through waivers, and he's back. So look at me. Look how smart the Niners were. Look how dumb Krug was. I thought there was no chance Sebastian Valdez was getting through waivers, but the Niners knew better. And they put him through waivers, and he got through. So they were right. Malik Turner is on this practice squad, Braden Willis, and Nick Zakel. So that's the practice squad. Niners made that, but the Niners weren't done there. But wait, there's more. They claimed defensive tackle Jordan Jefferson off waivers from Jacksonville. So that's interesting because Jefferson is a talented guy. Let's see. I'm going to see if I can show you the footage of Jefferson. Somebody put this out. Jordan Jefferson. And by the way, if you search under Jordan Jefferson, there's multiple Jordan Jeffersons that have played at LSU. This is the big defensive tackle that played at LSU. I thought we had footage here, but I don't see it. Okay, so we're just going to go through it, though. Some of the moves of the day. So that was, that was one of them. So the Niners waived Evan Anderson and signed Jordan Jefferson. They claimed him off waivers from Jacksonville. They liked him coming out of the draft. He played at LSU. And I don't know. I thought they really liked Evan Anderson, but they waived Evan Anderson. So I don't know if Anderson wasn't healthy. They just preferred Jefferson to Anderson. Anderson doesn't give you much pass rush. Maybe they feel like Jordan Jefferson gives you a little bit more as a pass rusher. But that was a little bit of a surprise because they really liked Evan Anderson. I thought he played some good ball for them. They waived him today. They waived Corey Kiner. I really thought they liked Corey Kiner. I personally really like Corey Kiner. I think that's kind of a mistake, but we'll see. The other move they made today is they added Marquez Valdez-Scantling, the veteran wide receiver. Now, I'm kind of, if I love a move, I'll tell you I love it. I love the Brian Robinson move. If I hate a move, I'll tell you I hate it. This one's kind of in the middle. I don't love it, but I understand it. Why is Marquez Valdez-Scantling their choice? A couple reasons. One, the season's about to start, and he had experience with Clint Kubiak. Kubiak had him in Seattle, and Valdez-Scantling knows the system. And, they're ready to roll. They're ready to play, So you got to have somebody who knows the system. And Marquez Valdez-Scantling is an ex-wide receiver that has speed. He has good speed. He averaged 22.6 yards per catch last year with the Saints. He has been released twice in the last 10 months. So you're not getting a truly great player. I mean, you got to be realistic, but he knows the system. He's a veteran receiver who can run, who knows the system. Is he a good receiver? Not particularly. Not particularly. He only caught 40 of the 86 targets that came his way in 2024. That's not good. Catching less than half the balls they throw you. You may get 8 balls in a game if you're super busy. You can't catch 3. We threw him 10 passes and he caught 4. No. Preferably you'd have a catch rate that's much higher than that. So 40 of 86 shows that not the best. And then if you look at what he did as far as last year, he had 19 total receptions in 14 games. But once again, he's an ex-wide receiver with speed who was available. And the Niners right now are desperate. They're desperate for a receiver. Another interesting thing today, not a single 49er player was claimed off waivers by another team. Nobody claimed any of the Niners. Thought that was a surprise. Carter Bradley and Tanner Mordecai went to the IR with injuries, so they're now on IR. By the way, Kendrick Bourne was released by the Patriots today. He had an ACL in 2023. Matt Mayoko describes the Niners' interest as high, that their interest is very high in Kendrick Bourne. In addition to that, the 49ers are the betting favorite at plus 250 to sign Deontay Johnson, the veteran wide receiver who's been in a bunch of spots the last couple of years. I don't know. I might steer clear of Deontay Johnson. All right, but that's not it. But wait, there's more. We have lots of Niner news to report. Let's get through more of that. So as we mentioned, Jordan James and Upton Stout back at practice today. Ricky Pearsall practicing today. Sebastian Valdez back with the Niners. Glad to see that. Wearing number 55. There were some number changes today. Robbie Chosen is now wearing number 7. Eli Apple, number 30. Braden Willis, number 83. Malik Turner, number 84. Drew Moss is wearing 65. Sky Moore is wearing 9. Brian Robinson was wearing 30, and now he's wearing 3. For those of you who like to keep up on the jerseys, who's wearing what number. But wait, there's even more. As I mentioned before, Evan Anderson and Corey Kiner waived today from the IR with injury settlements. Very disappointed in that because I like both those guys quite a bit. But wait, there's more. The Niners are also signing former Jets quarterback Adrian Martinez to their practice squad. Now, I really like this move. I know people will be like, what? Why do you like Adrian Martinez? Crew, get a life. But I've always liked this guy. This is a good prospect. I saw him at Nebraska. He finished up at K-State. I didn't realize he was a NorCal kid. He's from Hanford in the Valley, right? Hanford is in the Valley. And he went to Clovis West. I think Kate Scott might have went to Clovis West down in Fresno. And he played football, played basketball, and was originally committed to Cal. He was supposed to go play for the Golden Bears. Didn't do that. Then was supposed to go to Tennessee. Didn't do that. And ultimately spurned both and went to go to Lincoln, Nebraska. I'd love to know what the transaction was there. Yeah, I'm thinking about Berkeley, California. Maybe Knoxville, Tennessee. No, you know what? Screw that. Let's go to Lincoln, Nebraska. What? Anybody who's ever been to those three places, it's like, are you kidding me? But he went to Nebraska, and he played at Nebraska, finished up in 2022 at K-State, was entered into the draft for 2023, went undrafted, didn't get drafted. Has played a little bit for Detroit. Robert Saleh was familiar with him from his time with the Jets. And then he's played for the Birmingham Stallions of the UFL. And this guy kind of blossomed in the UFL. He was the MVP of the league last year. He was the quarterback on the championship team. He threw 15 touchdowns, only 3 picks. So he was 20 and 27 in college as a starter. 51 touchdowns, 31 interceptions. What's really intriguing, though, about Adrian Martinez, he's super athletic. He's got 4.5 speed, and he can really run. Son gave me a little head cold. So now, got a little bit of a cold, courtesy of the kid. Damn football players. Anyway, 4.55 is what Adrian Martinez runs. And the Niners added him today. I like him. I really do. I think he's going to be interesting. He can move. He's athletic. He's competitive. He's playing his best football. He's in good rhythm. I liked Adrian Martinez. I always thought he was kind of a gamer. I want to share the screen as well on this one. I found the Jordan Jefferson video. And Jordan Jefferson. This is Jordan Jefferson getting pissed at the Senior Bowl. And John Chapman put this out. Here we go. Let's see if we can back it up. Here we go. He's doing a one-on-one against Phil Haynes, it looks like, from Connecticut. And then Haynes is like giving him he just throws Phil Haynes' helmet. There you go, Phil. Beat it. And Phil's pissed. Jordan Jefferson. Those one-on-ones get personal, man. Take your helmet. Get your hands out of my face. It's a great time of year. Anytime you're at in Mobile, there's money on the table. I like that. I like an angry defensive tackle. I don't know about the hands to the face. It might be a penalty. But I like a nice angry defensive tackle. I like my defensive tackles angry. Maybe that was Evan Anderson's issue. Maybe he wasn't angry enough. No, I'm just joking. Ev's a good guy. Hopefully the Niners get him back. I mean, he's definitely a good run defender. A really good run defender. Okay, so that happened today. Adrian Martinez is now here. He is one of the newest 49ers. What else happened today? There's more. So we told you about the guys returning to practice. Yatir Gross-Matos is also trending towards being able to play week 1, according to Kyle Shanahan. Also, Dom Pooney and it looks like Pooney definitely and Ben Barch are on pace to play week 1. I saw Pooney up in the box during the Charger game late in the fourth quarter. I said, man, how's that wheel? You going to be up for Seattle? And he said, I think so. It's getting better. Good dude. Really good dude. John Lynch said today that Russell Gage will be on the roster, which is not a surprise because he had said it the other day, but then they had all kinds of roster machinations. So Russell Gage will be there. So if you say, okay, what are the receivers week one? Ricky Pearsall, Sky Moore, Russell Gage, MVS. Those four for sure. We'll see about the fifth one. But those four are going to be their guys, at least to start. And Russell Gage, I would imagine, has a big role early on. What else? The Niners have placed Jacob Cowing on injured reserve. They made that announcement today. He's on injured reserve. The Niners have re-signed Thomas Morstead, 1-year deal, according to the team. He's back. So a lot of news today. A lot of news in Ninerland. Probably the most surprising is waiving Evan Anderson, but you got to create a roster spot. Oh, the Seahawks, by the way, signed Chaz Surratt to their active roster. So the Seahawks, Michael McDonald, picked off Chaz Surratt. The Niners, Saleh likes Surratt. He's always just good enough to be in your camp, but not good enough to make it. He made 11 tackles in this last game, but I would say 9 or 10 of them were 5 yards down the field. But Seattle needed him, and they signed him. We gave you the practice squad list. Oh, by the way, for those of you who want to check out, here's a little Sincere McCormick. If you want to take a look at Sincere. And you'll see he definitely runs with good body lean. This is some Raider highlights from last year. He was good with the Raiders. I really liked him. Let's back this video up so you can see it from the beginning.
Thin Raider.
Here we go. We'll turn the volume down. But yeah, here it is. A little Sincere McCormick. A little shifty, good balance. Compact back. Just a compact back. Compact running back. Doesn't give you a lot of surface to hit. Real shifty. Keeps the shoulders squared. Between the tackles kind of a guy. Now he's kicking it outside, but he's really a between the tackles kind of a guy. He's got nice little shiftiness to him. Good little contact balance. Very productive back at Texas San Antonio. As you can see here, twisting, turning. Nothing special, but a solid NFL back. I mean, nothing to sneeze at either. This guy's pretty good. I think this is a good get. I really like this. I think this is, to me, getting Sincere McCormick, I think was a good move. Now you got a guy that, you know what, you get to a game and all of a sudden, oh, McCaffrey's not feeling it. Robinson's not healthy, whatever. You got a guy that you can put in there that's better, younger than Jeff Wilson, better than Keyshawn Vaughn, a real NFL back. Now, is this guy a star? No, but he's going to pick the right hole. I mean, the thing about Garendo's got great speed, but he doesn't have any of these instincts. He would have just ran into that pile. He just doesn't have true running back instincts. He doesn't have a good feel for it. He's got great measurables, but no feel. This guy's got great feel. Great feel. And you can see it. Just a little slight hesitation. Just, right there at the end of the run. He wraps the two hands on the ball. Smart veteran move in traffic. There you go. See, in traffic, 2 hands on the ball. So I like Sincere McCormick. He is one of the 49ers stories of the day. All right. But wait, let's see. There's even more than that. Let's get to the big story. We talked to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, and of course, the whole Jawan Jennings thing came up. And it was very interesting. Very interesting. One, they start with, hey, JJ's working through his calf issue. Okay. Hopeful for week 1 for JJ, but we really don't know. And then, John was asked, hey, are you looking for more wide receivers? We're always looking to improve our roster. So the answer to that is yes. There were some questions about, the rehab and the imaging and, because I think there's a lot of people that think that the that the the calf thing's a bunch of crap, and that he's just sitting out because he doesn't have the contract. I mean, this is a calf injury that he had in July. It's probably over it. My guess is he's probably over the calf injury. And if not, I mean, that's a hell of a calf injury. And they're sitting up there talking about it. It just didn't look right. But he said, "Hey, we'll do more MRI imaging if he doesn't heal right away." Well, he hasn't healed right away. He's had it since March. It's August. The season's about to start. Once again, not a lot of urgency in this calf in the process of getting it back. It doesn't sound like, other than it's a persistent sucker, that calf. And then, I think it was Branch who asked the question, "Hey, you guys are hearing the rumblings, right? Maybe the contract could be an issue. What do you think?" And, Lynch tap danced, but then he just basically came out and said it. Yeah, it's true. He's got a calf and he wants a new deal. Okay. He wants a new deal. Grant asked the question, "Hey, are you guys negotiating with him, or are you just waiting for him to come back?" Which is the ultimate question. The only other question I wanted to ask, and to me it seemed skewed a little negative, but what the hell? I skew a little negative. Is, are you worried that if the guy comes back without an extension of any kind, that he's going to be a good soldier and happy to be there and a good Niner, or is he going to be angry and pissed and an island unto himself and a big distraction? Are you worried about that? But I didn't get that one out. It was in the holster. It wasn't. Well, I didn't want to ask questions today. I just wasn't in a mood to ask questions today. I just, it wasn't my day to ask questions. The question did come up: has he asked to be traded? And Lynch is like, yeah, a while ago he did. He asked to be traded. And then we're like, well, wait, whoa. When? And he's like, well, a while back, a while ago. We're not telling you exactly when. Well, it was a while ago. But, and then, well, what happened? Has he rescinded his trade demand? And then, no answer to that. And then he said, we're not doing that. He goes, yeah, he asked for a trade a while ago, but we're not doing that. We're moving forward. We're not going there. We're not doing that. So probably figured out that maybe there's not much of a trade market for him. I don't know. Or maybe he just loves the guy that much he can't even consider the thought of trading him. But that's what they said. So where are we at? We haven't moved this story at all. Does he have a calf injury? Yes. Does he have a contract dispute? Yes. Is he going to come back? We don't know. Are they going to start fining him if he doesn't come back? It doesn't sound like it. We'll do more imaging if it doesn't heal right away. It hasn't healed right away. I would say the imaging probably ought to get done maybe right now. Just an idea. Couple other notes before we welcome in the great Brad Graham is joining us tonight, and I'm fired up, so fired up. I love Brad. Brad does an amazing job covering the Niners. Ran into him and his kid the other day at practice. I guess it was a few weeks ago now. Kid's got a big smile. He's all happy. Hey, there he is.
What's up, Larry?
What's going on, man?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Oh, man, I was just telling the story how we ran into you and your kid at camp, and just, I just love that, man. It's very cool. Dads and sons getting to spend some time together. We all work so hard. But it's one of the joys of life, being able to kind of hang out at Niner camp with your kid. He had a big smile. He'd gotten an autograph that day. He was fired up. That's the good stuff, huh?
Oh, absolutely. He got the Brock Purdy that day. That was one of the better days for anyone who's ever been to a 49ers camp before. It's, they do the autographs at the end of the practice. And, when Brock Purdy comes over, George Kittle, Fred Warner, oh, man, the kids are hyped, right? Well, Brock Purdy's walking over, and he's kind of angling away from my son, and he goes, "You," points right at my son. He's like, "You're first," because he was wearing the Brock Purdy jersey, and then he gets the big autograph on the back. Oh, he was loving life. He was glowing. It was a great time.
That is awesome. Who's Brad Graham? You say, for some of you don't know. Come on, you know Brad. He's basically the SF Niners on YouTube, which is a huge success and does an amazing job covering the 49ers on multiple platforms. Has a phenomenal YouTube channel and has spent an awful lot of time watching the Niners at camp and is immersed in all the topics. So, Brad, why don't we get into it? What jumped out to you today? I mean, there were some dramatic moves today. Adrian Martinez, new quarterback, Sincere McCormick, a new running back, Jordan Jefferson, a new defensive tackle. They didn't lose Sebastian Valdez, which was great. Drew Moss, you're pumping up of Drew Moss's great highlights. I think helped him get on this roster. Good job there. But what stood out to you today? I mean, there was a number of moves, and we could probably talk about a number. I was just talking about JJ right before you came on. Lynch and Shanahan, gave us kind of the latest, but there's not a lot of meat on that bone right now. It seems like a lot of the same stuff that we've been talking about all summer. What stood out to you today?
I think the biggest thing that stood out to me was Evan Anderson getting released. I wasn't anticipating that. Now I understand why the San Francisco 49ers put in the claim for the defensive tackle, Jordan Jefferson, who was coming from the Jaguars, who was released. And obviously he has that fourth round pedigree, whereas, Evan Anderson was a UDFA, but we know he played some meaningful snaps last year for the 49ers. And he played pretty well. I honestly thought throughout training camp he showed flashes. I know Evan Anderson was missed a period of time due to injury, so I don't know if maybe there's something that's going on with something that's lingering or maybe just getting back into shape. But I was kind of surprised by that particular move, but I understand it. I get why the 49ers went that route. But overall, a lot of things went down today, but some of the things that really stood out to me were some of the good news. Upton Stout returning to practice today. Jordan James, the running back out of Oregon, returning to practice today. We haven't seen him since the first day of pads after he broke his finger. So that's some good news. I'll take some good news. So those are some of the things that stood out today, with also Sebastian Valdez coming back to the practice squad. A lot of different things.
A lot of things today. MVS was added. Marquez Valdez Scantling, who, ex-wide receiver, has got some speed and has got some ability to stretch the field. He's not the greatest ball skills guy. He's been a little inconsistent, but he's definitely, he's worked with Kubiak before. He's familiar with the system. I think that has a lot to do with why he was the guy. What do you think of MVS coming over? And I guess, right, Brad, he's a full go week one. I would imagine you're probably going to see a lot of them.
Yeah, I think MVS is one of those moves where I think you understand it. When you look at the 49ers wide receiver room, you've got Brandon Ayuk on PUP, Demarcus Robinson suspended for 3 games. Jacob Cowing goes to IR today. Jawan Jennings, as we all know, is dealing with the calf and maybe some other things. And so there's not a lot of available options. I mean, even their young, promising rookie, Jordan Watkins has a high ankle sprain. So not a lot of available options. And so when the 49ers go out and got MVS after he was released from the Seattle Seahawks, it wasn't necessarily a move where I'm jumping up and down and saying, oh, this is the move to take the 49ers over the top. To me, it's one of those moves where I understand it, considering he can play a role where he could get anywhere from 300 to 400 yards receiving, kind of similar to what he did last year with the Saints. I will say, though, for whatever reason, I it's not like I follow Marquez Valdez Scantling's career all that closely, but I did notice him last year. He was flashing. He was making some plays. And so I thought it was an interesting move. I don't love it. I don't hate it. I understand the move. I think that it fills a need, and you're getting a veteran guy who can probably plug and play pretty quickly. So, and I think that's a lot of the considerations there. And on top of that, he's probably cost effective. So fills a bunch of different needs for the 49ers. We'll see how he fits into this role. But, the 49ers got guys like Robbie Chosen back onto the practice squad, Russell Gage back on the active roster. I was actually surprised, Larry, that they let Russell Gage go initially, but it sounds like they needed to shift some things around. He's back on the roster. So we'll see. We'll see. The 49ers wide receiver room right now is Ricky Pearsall and a bunch of other guys. So we'll see how it goes when the season starts.
Well, Kendrick Bourne was released by the Patriots, but I don't think he's been the same since he tore the ACL. Mayoko reported that the Niners have a high level of interest in Bourne. I think I would temper that. I mean, I know another guy who knows the system, but I mean, there's some good young receivers, I think, that I would rather take a look at. If you're just you've already got a lot of veteran receivers. You might as well, since you got a couple openings, take one flyer on a young receiver that you liked coming out in the draft. It seems like that's, that there's nobody really knows who's going to adapt to the NFL at the receiver position well, as opposed to it's going to take them a couple years. We see first round picks that it takes 2-3 years to adjust. And then sometimes we see guys come out of nowhere and they just immediately hit the ground running. So if they could find the right young receiver, I'd love to see them take a shot on a young prospect.
Yeah, I think you and I think a lot alike, Larry. We like to develop those young and up and coming players, and any chance you can fit them into a roster spot, more than happy to oblige.
Adrian Martinez, what do what's your read on the Bradley and Mordecai, how they're playing their hand of cards there? They went with two quarterbacks, which I think a lot of us expected, right? Brock and Mac, and then they cut both Bradley and Mordecai, and they have their IR bound. They said they wanted a quarterback on the practice squad, so they picked up Adrian Martinez today, who I think is a pretty good quarterback coming off of a nice little run in the UFL for Birmingham. Is that you think that's the end of the road for Bradley and Mordecai, or do you expect those guys will be here on the injured list all year? How do you think the quarterback position behind the first two is going to play out?
I would have to assume that both Bradley and Mordecai eventually get waived with an injury settlement, and then maybe somewhere down the road have the potential chance to return to the practice squad. I mean, when I look at Adrian Martinez, I look at a guy that was with the Jets last year, and coincidentally enough, of course, who's with the Jets last year, Robert Saleh. So I have to assume there's some vouching going on for needing a scout team quarterback. And I think one of the things when you look at having a scout team quarterback or a guy who is going to be on the practice squad, he's 6'1", 220 pounds, but he can move. And the 49ers, when you look at some of the potential opponents that they will play, whether, during the season or maybe in the playoffs, maybe having a bit of a dual threat on a guy on your practice squad who's going to be emulating a lot of the opposing quarterbacks might be a benefit. Or maybe there's just something that they liked because, like you mentioned, he was the UFL MVP last year, UFL champion, all UFL team. So he really, and also he was also the UFL rushing leader, which is a crazy stat for a quarterback. So I'm sure there's something there. And I'm sure that the 49ers also, again, have Robert Saleh, who they can lean on for some insight on him. In regards to Mordecai and Bradley, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if we haven't seen the last Tanner Mordecai. He seems to find his way back on the 49ers roster. So we'll see if he comes back. But I'm curious about Adrian Martinez to see how he fits with the 49ers.
I think you did a video the other day where you embedded Cowherd and Cosell. Did you do that?
Yeah,
the other day?
Did.
And, Cowherd was just desperate to lead Cosell to Brock Purdy is this and that. And Cosell was just like, I watched, 250 snaps of him the other day, and he is a very good quarterback, and then went out and just kind of backed it all up and just left Cowherd just totally speechless. My hope for this season for the 49ers is that they're going to be a good team. And I think and there's a lot of unknown here, right? There's a lot of unknown. And there's some factors working against them that we'll get to in just a second. But one thing that is overwhelming to me is that Brock Purdy is part of the solution. He's not part of the problem. He's definitely going to, whatever they do this year, he's going to be the reason why. I think he looks really sharp on the field. He's looked good the entire time he's been with the Niners, but to me, this summer, he looks like he's taking it to a different level.
I would have to agree with you. I think one of my favorite things to watch at 49ers training camp this year was the Brock Purdy to George Kittle connection. It just felt like it was different. I don't know how to explain it. We've seen Brock Purdy and George Kittle in multiple camps together, so it's not like it was our first time. But when we were both at training camp, and I'm sure you saw it too, those guys were automatic. It was like there was a different connection between George and Brock than almost any other player. Now, granted, there was a phenomenal connection between Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall, right? Ricky Pearsall also really had a strong camp, making a lot of plays, showing that he can get open over the middle and making some tough plays over the middle as well. And that rapport was really starting to build. But really watching George and Brock work together, it almost got to a point where it felt automatic. And I've been telling people, Larry, I know a lot of people are playing fantasy these days. I'm like, this is the year to draft George Kittle high. I think this could be one of, if not George Kittle's best season with the San Francisco 49ers. Because again, just kind of like what we already talked about, the wide receiver room and kind of the group of people that is being put together there. George Kittle is your wide receiver one, in my opinion, on the San Francisco 49ers right now. I do think Ricky's going to have a big year, but watching Brock and what I really liked about Brock too, some of the things that really stood out to me was he felt more consistent on his deep ball throws, especially as training camp went on. And I know, Larry, from both of us being at training camp in the last couple of years, it hasn't been the most automatic thing. It's something where ever since he's came back from that UCL surgery, it just kind of felt like he was trying to find that spot, that touch, trying to find that right placement on those deep ball throws. And then he started connecting to Jordan Watkins. Then he started connecting to Ricky Pearsall. And it just felt like that's the next part of his game where he can really start to elevate. I think we are all in the firm belief that Brock Purdy is deadly when it comes to short to intermediate, whether either inside the hashes, outside the numbers. Brock Purdy can deliver the football wherever he needs to, whether it's with anticipation, whether baiting linebackers with his eyes and slipping it right on that backside. I think there's multiple ways that Brock Purdy wins, but I think if he can really take the deep ball game to a next level, I think it really opens up everything. And especially you bring back CMC into the mix, there's going to be a lot of people watching for CMC. And I think that's going to open up a lot of doors for other players to make some big plays deeper downfield.
You know, I think late in the year, we're going to have a hard time believing that early in the year they had no options, because late in the year there could be lots of options. And Watkins, I think, is going to be a big part of what they do this year. He just, you're right. I mean, Purdy to Watkins was a thing this summer. Watkins can separate down the field. Purdy has been looking for a receiver who can separate down the field. He will put it on you if you can separate down the field. Watkins is going to gain that separation. He's going to see the football. And then it's just, I think it's either going to be a story about him dropping the ball or he's had a great rookie year. Because I think you're going to see Purdy take shots down the field to him. JJ, how is the JJ thing going to work out? Are the Niners going to, one thing Lynch said today, he said, Grant asked the question, hey, are you guys, in negotiations with this guy and his agent, or are you just waiting for him to return? And John's like, we don't like to do this stuff publicly. But then he said, we have negotiated with him throughout the offseason. He said that. So there could be an announcement at any point of some kind of tinkering to the deal that helps everybody save face and move on. I can't believe that they're going to rip up the base for 2025. And I can't believe that Rosenhaus would allow his guy to not be a free agent in March of 26. So I don't know if there's an actual deal to be had there. But the other concern is JJ's very prideful. And are you going to make him lose face in a room that you're now going to ask him to be a leader in? So I think I think that Lynch and Shanahan are aware of all of these factors. So how this thing comes to an end is going to be very delicate and it's going to be very interesting. How do you think? How do you think this eventually ends?
That's a great question because I think there are multiple outcomes, but it does feel like, based on what John Lynch said today, I mean, he said point blank, we're not trading JJ. Now
Right.
he did admit to, yes, there was a trade request. Obviously, that was walked back after it was initially reported from Adam Schefter. But with kind of the transparency in that regard that was shared today, he also said we're not doing it. Where and that's my biggest takeaway from what John Lynch had said is that it really came across like the only option for JJ in 2025 is to suit up and play for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, is that under a new contract? Is that under a tweaked contract that allows him to be a free agent in 2026? Can they add incentives? Can they build up the base? Can they shift some more money towards the guaranteed aspect of things? Because I think, I think back to when Raheem Mostert kind of went through a little bit of a negotiation. It was just kind of shifting some of that language to more guaranteed dollars. And so maybe it could be something like that. But if I had to guess, I would have to assume JJ is going to be playing with the 49ers this season because, again, I don't think the 49ers can really, they're afforded the ability to not have JJ unless they trade JJ for another wide receiver. But with Jawan, we saw his emergence last year. He played really, really well. We all understand his blocking abilities, one of my favorite parts of his game. We all understand that dog mentality that he brings to that room and brings to the team in general. And he really embodies that tough, hard-nosed, I'm going to block you 10 yards downfield and then put you on your back or even into a Gatorade bucket on the side of the field, as we've seen him do before. I would have to assume JJ is playing for the 49ers this year. And I don't know, man. I think this is one of the more interesting situations that the 49ers have been through in recent memory because I feel like we've at least kind of known more generally what has been transpiring with these potential negotiations, which I guess I'll classify it as. I would have to assume, though, that JJ is going to be playing for the 49ers this year and might have to be on a tweaked deal that gets him a little bit more incentive, maybe a little bit more guaranteed money, and then he will be able to test the market in 2026. And that's the incentive for JJ. We'll give you a little bit of a bump here, but ultimately you're playing for next year. You're playing for your next contract. And we're going to give you the opportunity to get targets, to get opportunities here. And maybe that's the incentive that the 49ers are looking at.
It's funny because a lot of people's solution to a happy locker room is pay everybody. But in this scenario, if you do pay them, there may be some offensive linemen that take offense to that and say, hey, what about McKivitz? What about our guy who actually, blood, sweat, and tears, he was here all summer doing it while the other guy was sitting it out. Our guy was here, and what, you didn't take care of him? And he thinks, and he looks great, by the way. And McKivitz says he wants to make the Pro Bowl. I mean, what if McKivitz comes out and makes the Pro Bowl? I mean, I don't know. There could be some salty guys in the room. They're usually pretty good at handling that. But we'll see. It's something to monitor for sure because you got to have everybody. It's like the Warriors when they got Jimmy Butler. They were smart enough to not just be like, oh, we'll just get Jimmy Butler. They got Jimmy Butler and they extended him. They realized Jimmy Butler unhappy is not good. Ask Miami. But Jimmy Butler happy was very good for Golden State. I kind of feel the same way about Jennings. It's like Jennings in the room, you'd rather have him than not, but I want him happy in the room more than anything because he is a leader. And you're going to ask him to lead this room. So you don't want him to lose face in that same room that you're asking him to lead. What do you think of Brian Robinson, Brad? I love this addition, but I want to see a lot of him this year. Because I think it's imperative that if the Niners are going to win the Super Bowl, and I really want to see them do it. I know you do too. I think they got to get to the playoffs with a healthy CMC. I think that's got to be the plan. So you needed a real number 2 running back that's almost like a true one. And I was saying it yesterday. It's like, if you want to get a great number 2 running back, shop in the number 1 running back aisle, and you're almost guaranteed to get a good number 2. I think this is a good one. And the price was so cheap What do you think of Robinson, and how many, how do you see the split going between the two of them?
First of all, what a steal of a deal. Getting Robinson
Sixth? I
for
mean,
for a
that's
sixth,
unbelievable. Yeah.
and the Commanders taking $1.25
Yeah.
million of his already cost-effective contract. I think it's a little bit north of 3 million overall. So the 49ers get the Commanders to take some of that contract. They give a sixth in order to obtain Brian Robinson Jr., who has been a starter in this league. And I think when you look at that running back room, at least the tandem of CMC and Brian Robinson, the blueprint that I look at is what they're doing over there in Detroit with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. If you want to talk about a split and you want to talk about a situation where keeping guys fresh and being able to use both, I think that's a nice blueprint. Gibbs, obviously the electric running back, all the speed in the world, can catch the ball to the backfield. He's going to make guys miss. He can do all that in the open field. And then you bring in the bruiser in David Montgomery, obviously in this situation, Brian Robinson, who can just plow between the tackles. He can but to give him his credit, he can do some stuff outside the tackles. He's a pretty solid back. I like him in those base down, short yardage type goal line situations. That's where I would like to see a lot of Brian Robinson Jr. But I think, the combination of both, again, I think like you mentioned it too, it's like you got to keep CMC healthy. And I know Kyle Shanahan has historically had CMC in that workhorse role, but I understand why. Like, I get it. CMC does it all. He's a great pass blocker. He catches out of the backfield, and he can run it anywhere, outside the tackles, in between the tackles, doesn't matter. So I can understand why it's very challenging to bring CMC off the field, because I remember when the 49ers traded for him, I said that this guy reminds me of Stephen Curry. And some people might be like, well, what are you talking about? The gravity. The gravity that CMC creates reminds me of the gravity that Stephen Curry creates, where defenses are keyed. Where's this guy? Even when the ball isn't in their hands, you have to know where this player is at all times, because he can hurt you at any point. And so I'm excited about that element. But hey, what would they look like if they're both on the field? But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think it's a good situation for the 49ers. I think trying to keep CMC fresh for the season will do them wonders in the second half of the season. And, we've all heard it, Larry. A lot has been made of their easy schedule and all of those different types of things. At the end of the day, just put yourself in a position to make the playoffs, put yourself in a position to win the NFC West, and having a healthy CMC, I think is going to be a big reason why they'll have a shot to do that this year.
Yeah, I mean, CMC is really good. I mean, he is really, really good. And if you can keep him healthy, great. But maybe ride him a little not as hard as you did a couple years ago. One last thought, and it's time for our 49ers stat of the day. I always come up with one stat of the day that I think is defining. And I saved a doozy for you, Brad. This is a true doozy. If you ask me, like, how do you feel about this year for the 49ers? I'm a little torn, right? Because they do have so many young players, but they do have so many great players. And last year, it seemed like the schedule was just overwhelmed them, where this year the rest element is far more in their favor. I think that's kind of an element of football that doesn't get talked about a lot, but it's a major factor. But I'm a little uneasy about this team, and I was trying to think why. Why am I uneasy about this team? Because I like a lot of these young players. I've been talking up a lot of these draft picks, and they're clearly healthy. They've had a good summer. The schedule's favorable. Why am I a little uneasy? And it's really leads to our 49ers stat of the day. The 49ers have $42.8 million right now in available cap room. It's the third most in the NFL. Right. They're claiming that they probably want to roll over all of it, if not most of it, because they got big Purdy payments coming in the future. So $42.8 million they have an available cap room, third most in the NFL. And then I read this morning that the Niners have an NFL high $96.6 million in dead cap. So it doesn't take a genius to go to abovethecap.com or whatever and look that the NFL's base cap is 279.2 million, roughly 280 million. And then it doesn't take a genius to add up 42.8 million and 96.6 million and realize that the Niners have already they've got 139.4 million of their 279.2 that they're not using. And they're trying, and I looked at the percentage of it, it's 49.9%. The Niners are trying to win the 2025 Super Bowl in a year where they're using less than half of their total salary cap on player salaries in a league where there's some teams that are spending 90% on player salaries. They're spending 49.9% on player salaries. So every time we hear Shanahan talk, he's like, hey, we just hope to make it to the playoffs. And Lynch is like, hey, it could be a bumpy ride. I think the fan base is very much, Brad, like, hey, last year was an aberration and the injuries, and this year, we're going to be healthier and we're going to be better, and we got this young class of guys, and new era. But it's going to be a massive challenge to compete for even a playoff berth when you look at the fact that they're only spending 49.9% of their total cap, and some teams are spending nearly double. What do you think?
Well, you hit the nail on the head, Larry. A lot of these moves have put a lot of young players in a position to play a lot of early snaps. I mean, look at Marquise Siegel, 5th-round draft pick, has a chance to be a starter at safety with Malik Mustafa starting the year on PUP. Upton Stout, probably going to be your starting nickel heading into this season. Now, granted, shout out to Upton Stout. I mean, that guy was just all over the field when my favorite thing about Upton Stout, not to go on an Upton Stout tangent, when the pads came on, he got better. That was my favorite thing about Upton and watching him in training camp this year. He was just flying around making plays in the run game. And that's where I was like, okay, yeah, this guy's going to start. So I feel good about that. You also look at guys, second-year player Ronaldo Green is going to be starting now, opposite side of Diamador Lenore. D. Winters, I know D is heading into year 3, but he hasn't played significant snaps. He's definitely going to be the starter opposite side Fred. Then you got Michael Williams, who's going to play a lot of snaps this year, the rookie that was drafted 11th overall. CJ West is expected to play a lot of snaps this year. Alfred Collins, a lot of rookies going to get some run out there for the 49ers this year defensively. So I think it's going to be an emphasis on the 49ers offense. It's effectively, minus Aaron Banks, who I didn't think had a great year last year, is pretty much the same offensive line. George Kittle, you've got Ricky Pearsall. Obviously, we understand all the issues that are going on with the wide receiver room, but you mentioned it. Brandon Ayuk will be returning, hopefully after week 4. You get Christian McCaffrey back, and you got Brock Purdy. So you think that offense led by Kyle Shanahan can do a lot of work. And then you add Robert Saleh into the mix. One of my favorite things from training camp, Larry, was watching Robert Saleh cook.
Yeah.
Some of the alignments, and again, I had to be careful. I didn't want to say too much, but he was dialing it up. And we saw some glimpses of it in the preseason, but I don't even think we've seen all of it. And within that scheme that Robert Saleh was executing, Jason Pinnock really stood out to me with how they used him. Reminded me of Derwin James, of how they was used all over the formation, used everywhere, whether on the line of scrimmage, up the middle, in coverage, a lot of different things. So I get it. I understand. There definitely seems to be an element where the 49ers are trying to get a little bit more cost controlled, and I think it's more predicated on the cash spend, maybe less than the cap allowance that they have allotted to them. And obviously, like you mentioned, they do have to roll over a lot of that cap to next season. So I think it will be a challenge. I'm not banging the table like I have in years past where this is a guaranteed playoff team, Larry, but they have a chance. They have a shot. And just like any season, the biggest thing that is going to stop this team from getting to the playoffs is that blue tent. Injuries, Larry. If they can stay healthy, they have a shot. They really, really do. And I really believe that with what we've seen in training camp this year, we've seen the guys that have been out have been good. So if they can stay healthy and they can stay in a good spot within the division, start out hot with the win against Seattle week 1, I do think the 49ers will have a shot at the playoffs. I don't think it's as strong as like I mentioned, as years past, but I think there's room. We'll see though.
I always love wrapping ball with Brad Graham. He is fantastic. I got one last one on your way out. We're past 7. My wife's going to give me a dirty look here and say, go pick up your kid from football practice. So I'm going to be hustling out here in just a second. And if I end abruptly and look kind of scared, the warden has come down. And no, I shouldn't say that. Honey, you're beautiful. You're not the warden. All right. One of my good buddies is always calling his wife the warden.
That's hilarious.
I mean, and when she comes in the room too, he's like, "Oh, the warden's here." She hates it, absolutely hates it. But I've got to ask you, because you were big on Drew Moss and I was big on Connor Colby, and the Niner fans have been ripping the tar out of the 49ers for not rebuilding their offensive line. And what did they do in last year's draft? They got Don Pooney, the best offensive lineman in the entire draft. And what did they do this year? They used very little draft capital, but they added 2 really good, I think, future starter interior players. And after talking to Connor Colby, I've yet to talk to Drew Moss, but after talking to Colby, I am absolutely convinced he is going to be a plug-and-play starter. And I know Barch is in there now, but I think Colby and Pooney are going to be the guard tandem of the future. And I think Colby, Moss, and Pooney, I think is going to be the interior of the future. You played offensive line. I want 2 thoughts. One, what you think of the long-term future of Moss and Colby. And 2, I don't think Burford or Pleasance can stand up as pass rushers. I don't think either are pass rushers. I think the Niners have 2 guys, and it makes them feel better that they've got 2, but I think they've got 0. I don't think either of those guys can do the job, and I want to believe in them, but I'll defer to you. You played this position. You played offensive line, and you're unbiased here. Is Burford and Pleasance, are they quick enough to block the speed rushers that reside in this league? And tell me what you think on Colby and Moss, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, so starting with Burford and Pleasance, I think they're serviceable. And I think that's why they have been able to kind of lock down these swing tackle roles, both left and right. I prefer that they are actually both guards. I look at Pleasance. He reminds me of a young Colton McKivitz. You know, Colton McKivitz was drafted and he was originally played at guard, and then they kicked him out to tackle to kind of be like a backup guy, just see where he could make the roster. And slowly over time, McKivitz has developed and obviously earned himself a starting role. I kind of look at those guys as their probably best fit is on the interior, but they have serviceability on the outside. And with the 49ers' current depth, they don't have any better options at tackle. They brought in Andre Dillard. He lasted what, Larry, 2 practices before.
It was a good financial arrangement for Andre.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was.
Wow.
But yeah, I don't love it. I'll be honest with you. I was really hoping, I was crossing my fingers that Esapole slipped past,
yes. Where'd he go?
Jets. He went to Jets. They're sitting in that 7 slot.
He went to Chabot and you were all over him. I think he's got a lot of talent. There were a couple tackles. I was thinking, I had the list here. Wait a second. I got to ask you about the couple of these tackles. I went through every roster to just take a look, of course, because I'm that sicko. I know it's a problem. It's a real problem.
But I
had Holland Pierce. This is my list of guys: McClendon Curtis, Esapole, Logan Brown, Holland Pierce, Caleb Etienne, Trent Brown. Oh, I know who I liked. I like Javon Foster from Missouri. I don't know if he went anywhere, but I thought he was a decent tackle once upon a time. But tell me what you think of Moss and Colby down the road, and then we'll call it right there since we're past.
Yeah, for sure. So, as you know, Larry, I'm a big fan of Moss. Appreciate the shout out the other night on the show. That was pretty cool. So with Moss, man, it stood out to me at 49ers training camp. I remember the rep that I saw in team like vividly, where You remember early on when pads came on, CJ West was destroying everyone in one-on-ones. Remember that? He was just blowing through everyone.
Yeah.
Didn't matter even if it was Pooney.
It's ragdolling guys.
Exactly. And see, he gets Moss the first time, pushes him back with a nice bull rush. After that, Moss got CJ West the rest of those one-on-ones. And then in team, you had a rep where CJ West was in the 3-tech against Moss. Moss shoves CJ West out and around the pocket. You have a looping Robert Beal coming in on a stunt. Moss plants his 2 fists into Robert Beal's chest and puts him on his back. I'm like, oh, that's not normal. Not only did he have the cerebral ability to pick up the stunt, he put Beal on his back and took care of West all in one like sweeping motion. And that's really the first thing where I was like, oh, we might have something here. And then as it continued to progress, you see it in the preseason. He has a advanced nature to him. It kind of reminded me of Dominic Pooney. I don't think he has the same skill set as Dominic Pooney, but when you look at those small things, the technical elements, the cerebral ability of being able to pick up and be aware and clue in on stunts, he has it. And that was really something that I liked. I really liked his ability to reach 3-techs. He has good feet, good base, good hips. I mean, it was just a progression, and he just kept checking every box. So Drew Moss, gotta tip the cap. Oh yeah,
watch this that. This is the video that Brad put out on his channel. I'll go back to the front of it so people can see from the front. Here he is, 55. Club. I mean, anytime you can get the D lineman down on the ground, that's pretty good.
Yeah, the defensive lineman goes for the long arm, and you see as almost instantaneously he goes for the club, and it completely takes the defensive tackle off his balance, and then he just drives him into the ground. It's beautiful. It really is. That's high-level stuff. Those are some of the things that we look for when we're watching Trent Williams film. When we're watching Trent play, he's doing these types of things. He's taking the technique to the defensive tackles. So I really loved it from Drew Moss, and I do think Connor Colby is also a really, really solid prospect. I mean, shout out to Colby. He earned his way up into the starting role at one point in the preseason. I do think there is a little refinement there for Connor Colby, but I think that he can absolutely get the job done. And the combination of those two, who knows, man? If the 49ers hit on future starters with a 7th and an undrafted pick, tip of the cap, John Lynch, and whoever made those recommendations and selections, congratulations. That was phenomenal. Absolutely loved it.
You also put this out. This is really good too. This is Brad putting. Now this one I love because he smothers him and he puts him on the ground. Look at Moss playing right guard here, 55. Watch this rep. Now he showed good movement, but then he stays with him, stays slide, and then keep driving. Look at that. Oh, there you go.
And the best part is the ref had to run over and say, "Get off this guy." And you know, Larry, it is like a badge of honor when you put a guy on his back and you just lay on him and you force him to like wiggle out. It's just like, I own you. It's like, it's the best, And so those are the small things that really stood out to me about Drew Moss. And I'm really excited that the 49ers kept him because I wasn't sure that they were.
Brad Graham does a great job. Brad, tell people now. I mean, you've got so many more followers than me, and so many more subscribers, and all that. You've been doing this a long time and doing it really well. So I'm telling people check out Brad, but of course, Brad probably should be telling people to check out us here at KNBR. But go ahead, Brad. Tell people, what if they're stumbling onto this for the first time, because people do kind of watch in an uneven pattern. Tell them, what kind of content you put out and where they can find it.
Yeah, I mean, from content, you can go from memes to in-depth offensive line breakdowns. That's one of the things that I try to cover on the SF Niners on any platform is, just try to give you all things football, whether it's creative, whether it's edits, whether it's film breakdowns, whether it's news updates. Try to do my best to keep you covered on all things San Francisco 49ers. And again, shout out to you, Larry, man. Appreciate you having me on. Always a good time hopping on KNBR with you.
Oh, dude, you put out a lot of great content. You did a recent interview with Bryce Huff. Or is that not recent? You just have that pinned.
That was
Or-
right before
right
training
before
camp.
Okay, so check that out. But Brad talks to a lot of guys. You've had Ayuk on the show, and Brad puts out just a lot of great stuff. Thanks for coming on Niners Nightly, man. Everybody check out Brad. Hit like and subscribe here at Niners Nightly. Thanks to everybody for watching. That's going to do it for us. I'm back with you tomorrow night. Tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and then Friday will not be with you because I'll be filling in from 10 to 2 for Greg Papa. So join me in the daytime, 10 to 2 on Friday. We'll talk a lot of Niners in the daytime with Greg Silver. Fired up for that. But Brad, have a great night, and thanks to all you guys. Thanks for tuning into KNBR. He's the best. Have a great night, everybody. Peace.